This is HQ Spotlight, and we start this week's show with some trends. In 15 meetings between AP-ranked teams this season, the lower-ranked team is 12-3. The 800 win percentage for the lower-ranked teams currently second best all time. The three instances, though, that the higher-ranked team did win this season: Miami over USF, no doubt about it. Coin flip game with Georgia and Tennessee, and then there was the controversy that was OU and Auburn in Norman, Oklahoma. And with that, welcome to HQ Spotlight, where it's Wednesday, one half of the Cover 3 podcast, which means only one thing: picks against the spread involving every college football team in the AP Top 25, alongside Danny Kanell and Chip Patterson behind me. I'm Tommy Tran. Before we get to the ranked matchup games this week, which weren't as many as there were last week, Danny, just that graphic alone, when we're talking about lower-ranked teams better than higher-ranked teams, I think speaks to what you have been talking about this year, which is everything's a little tighter. Teams aren't as top-heavy as we think they are, and that's been evident with that stat we showed today.
Parity is here, and it's here to stay. I think we even talked about it last week. It's just the college football landscape, especially at the Power 4 level, is really starting to shape up like the NFL, where kind of anybody can beat anybody. And sure, at the bottom of the Power 4, there are some teams that look like their season might fall by the wayside, and they're going to be a layup for most people. But there really aren't that many games on a schedule between Power 4 conference opponents where you can just chalk it up and say, yep, that's an automatic win. The point spreads are getting tighter, and the wins and losses are starting to become more surprising. They shouldn't be surprising for long, because I think this is the new normal in college football.
Chip, from a handicapping perspective, how has that maybe changed over the last handful of years or so?
It's made me take some of the other soft factors into consideration a little bit more. I think we've seen some interesting, home field. How much is that going to play a role or not? How much can you trust road favorites is something that I know that we've been discussing anecdotally. And to what Danny said about the NFL, that's a conversation that I know that we all had when we were together there in Fort Lauderdale over the weekend, that when you do have the top coming down, when you have the bottom being raised up, you do end up getting point spreads and ratings for these teams that are a lot more similar to what we see in the NFL. Now, when the Power Conference plays the group of five, the body types are different. That's not going to be the case. But from here on out, we are mostly going to be dealing with conference-on-conference battles. So expect more of your 4.5, your 6.5, your 7.5, your 8.5, and a lot less of your 17.5, 18.5, and so on and so forth.
So we're going to get to our two ranked games here in this block, which has Miami coming to Tallahassee, 4.5 point favorites with a total of 53.5. This game did open 6.5, and it's come down just a little bit. Danny, I have to start with you. Obviously, the vibe check after what happened at UVA here. Just give me a sense, because you guys are going to be there for the Cover 3 podcast, of the anticipation, the atmosphere that will be this weekend.
You know, I think it's going to be a little more similar to the preseason when we were going to Alabama with the pregame show, when Florida State was a 2-touchdown underdog and everybody's kind of walking on eggshells a little bit. Now, I don't think there'll be that much anxiety as, oh no, we're going to be a game that we can't win. But there's definitely some trepidation now. There's some questioning back in the Florida State fan base of just how good this team is. But I think from a storyline perspective, it actually adds more juice to this game, because Florida State, this feels much more like a must-win game now for Florida State to keep their ACC hopes alive, as they're already 0-1 in conference, to keep their playoff hopes alive with the loss already to Virginia. That's not going to look good on anybody's resume. So that margin for error, it feels more like a must-win game here for Florida State, and we're only 4 games into the season.
Yeah, we're taking a look at that schedule there with the Noles 3-1. They do still have that Clemson game, but again, about a month ago, that was a marquee game that we certainly circled. Chip, if I give you the Mario Cristobal Miami perspective of coming into this one, first time this year leaving the friendly confines of Hard Rock Stadium, and hopefully no rain in this game here for the U.
Yeah, so I guess you've paid attention to that the storyline is like, oh, the reason why Carson Beck's ball doesn't have zip is because every game's been in the rain. Well, we can get to Carson Beck and throwing velocity on another time. To me, the big picture Miami narrative is 100% a prove-it moment, because while Miami has found itself continuing to climb week in and week out, the fact that this is the first road test and the fact that this is a game that stylistically has oil against water, because Miami, with would like to win this thing at the line of scrimmage, where I do believe that they have an advantage. They would like to mash you. They would like to run the football. They would like to let their defensive line stop the run on first and second down and then pin their ears back and be able to just run after the passer there with their excellent edge rushers on third and long. But that is not the team that Florida State is offensively, in terms of being very unbalanced, keeping you very much on your heels. And defensively, I think that Florida State might find itself being a little bit more aggressive. So Florida State up tempo, Miami a little bit less tempo. Florida State, a little bit of gadget play. Miami, what you see is what you get. It is just so interesting that in the first meeting that we get between these two teams, where both of them are ranked in about a decade, we've got them with all the shared similarities, with all the shared history. But in terms of handicapping this game, the X's and O's, the way they match up, very, very different teams. So can Miami impose its physical will on the road? It's one of the big questions that will decide this game.
Yeah, first time in a long time in terms of both teams ranked, but 26th all time. So it certainly happened with all the pedigree that these two programs have. As for the game itself, I mentioned the spread and the total, Danny. You haven't actually had a strong position on a side or money line like you were in the Alabama game. You actually like the total more, but do you have a lean in terms of the spread in this game?
I kind of like Florida State as the home dog here for all the reasons we were talking about. You know, it's Carson Beck's first big road game. Miami's just been able to play at home where they've been able to operate pretty smoothly. There haven't been the crowd noise issue. And for the first time, they're going to have to take this into one of the more hostile environments in all of college football. So that's something I look for. And there's also an aspect of, like, who do you trust more? I definitely would trust Miami from what we've seen in Florida State is coming off, but I do expect Florida State to give it their best, and I do expect Florida State's offense to put points on the board. This is the #1 scoring offense in the country, and I know Miami's defense has been lights out, but they really haven't faced a mobile quarterback yet like they're going to face in Thomas Castellanos, and that is the great neutralizer against guys like Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. Now, on the flip side, Florida State's defense, they did get pushed around against Virginia. I think it is going to be a struggle for them to get home to Carson Beck. And watch out for Miami's offensive line, one of the best in the country. So I think Miami's going to put points on the board. I think Florida State's going to put points on the board. I think it's a higher scoring affair. My favorite play in the game is over the total.
I'm going to go with the Noles. I just think 4.5 is a big number when I consider the outcomes. Okay, so Florida State wins this game. That's an obvious cover. Miami wins this game close. That's another situation where Florida State's got a spot to cover. But Miami, to be able to win this game handily, and if they win it, if it's a tie game, they get the game-winning touchdown, then I'll take my loss in our competition and I'll go home. But I think that what we saw against Notre Dame, with the way that Miami handled business once it got a lead, suggests that I don't think this Miami team should be trusted to be able to cover a big spread. My lean is that I think Miami is a little bit of the better team, but we're not doing leans here. We want your pick. We want your best bet. And for me, when I think about all the different outcomes, it's the home team with the erratic quarterback. You know, if Miami wins this game, Tommy, I don't think it's by 7. If Miami wins this game, it might be by like 10, 14, 20 points, because if it's close late, I think I like the Seminoles playing at home with that quarterback to be able to come up with the plays they need.
Again, you guys will be there for the Cover 3 podcast. So if you're in the Tallahassee area, visiting Canes fan, hometown Noel, make sure to go check them out and check out the socials for the latest information there. Speaking of Bama, they have a ranked-on-ranked matchup against Vanderbilt, and we know Kalen DeBoer now against ranked teams as a head coach, whether it was Tuscaloosa or Seattle or in the Central Valley with Fresno State. He's done well, especially against the number. But there's another trend out there that when he's a double-digit favorite, especially on the road, that number is not as favorable for Kalen DeBoer. Good news is that Bryant Denny, they welcome in Vandy. The line is 10.5. Again, just sort of the question, I think, surrounding Bama. Have they recovered from that opening week loss to FSU? And have we learned anything from the Georgia game, I guess, is what the big picture Crimson Tide talk is, Chip Patterson?
Have they recovered? Obviously, yes. Did we learn anything? Yes. What we learned is that Ty Simpson is making a case to being the best quarterback in all of college football. Obviously, the statistics were there with his completion percentage in the games following Florida State. He got in sync with Jeremy Bernard, with Ryan Williams, with the rest of these pass catchers, throw Isaiah Horton in the mix as well. But, let me dip back into my vibes back here. I like Ty Simpson, the leader. I like Ty Simpson, the heartbeat of this team. As we got sort of all access to the broadcast of this Alabama-Georgia game, we saw the pump-up speech that he had before they took the field. Afterwards, Alabama releases what he said to the team at halftime. This is somebody who seems to be a real vocal and emotional leader. And honestly, it seems like he could be that as much as Kalen DeBoer is. Kalen DeBoer, a little bit more mild-mannered. Simpson has all of the fiery spirit that I think you would want out of someone who has really been waiting for this time. Former five-star prospect, he could have transferred multiple times over. He stuck around because he wants this. And for an Alabama program that was in transition, all the players lost to the transfer portal, total coaching staff overhaul, he is the continuity. He is the callback to the old era. So, yes, what did we learn? We learned that they have bounced back from Florida State, but we also learned that Ty Simpson is the big reason to like Alabama as a threat to win it all.
He's been arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the country. The way he's operated since that Florida State game, in a game where it really wasn't on him. It was his first big start. It was on the road. It wasn't like he played awful. He just didn't step up in the big plays. But since then, he has stepped up and made the big plays. And what I was blown away by was his comfort in the pocket. Now, Georgia did not do a good job of pressuring. That's something Vanderbilt will have to try to do. But he looks so confident, so poised. He knows exactly where he wants to go with the football. He's setting his back foot in there, and he's ripping the ball down the field. And, oh, by the way, he's got some really good weapons. Ryan Williams, still a little bit of case of the drops, but I would take him, if he catches it 80% of the time and he drops it 20%, I'm still going to take that 80% of the time all day long. So he's getting better rapport. They're getting healthier. Jam Miller came back. So I think Ty Simpson is very much in command of this offense. The defense is the thing I'm probably a little bit more concerned about for Alabama.
Current Heisman market watch, obviously, with Ty Simpson. It's been good for the Bama with that win over Georgia over the weekend. This game features some Heisman candidates, obviously with Ty Simpson, but also Diego Pavia. And if Vandy's going to have any chance to win this game, he's going to have to ball out. What does Day Trade Danny say, though, when it comes to Pavia potentially?
You heard about this. I was hitting the sell button on Diego Pavia. I think the story, the Cinderella story, and it's really been, for a year and a half now, we've seen the unbelievable impact that Diego Pavia has had on this Vanderbilt program. And it is unreal. I root for him. I think he's incredible. But this is a really tough spot for him. And if you look inside the numbers, against the better competition, when he was going against Power 4 teams, Virginia Tech and South Carolina, the passing numbers came down a little bit. And then he's able to run the football and put up massive points. I don't think that's the case against Alabama's defense. They are going to have their ears pinned back and want to take as many shots as they can at Diego Pavia. Now, he is built for it, and he's worked out all of season. He's got 19-inch neck, and he looks thick as anything. But I do worry about how long he can continue to put Vanderbilt on his back. They're a really good football team, but unfortunately, I don't think Diego Pavia can carry him to victory in this spot. If he does, though, and I'm wrong, Tommy, I think he goes right to the top of the Heisman Trophy list.
Let's get to the spread, which opened up 9.5, now 10.5. Both these teams are good cover teams so far this year. Both teams also over teams so far this year. You guys are on opposite ends of this game here, Chip. So you are grabbing the points with Vandy, double digits in a hook.
Yeah, Utah State might have kicked in that back door, Tommy, but we're still talking, at least in terms of cover margin per game, with one of the best covering teams in all of America. The things that I like about this Vanderbilt team are that they are not as gimmicky and gadgety as they were for their success last year. They have one of the best rushing offenses in the SEC. And with Diego Pavia, he's not just getting it done with his legs. I think he's also improved a lot as a passer. They've instituted a little bit of up tempo that they can access as well. So it's not necessarily a slow the game down type scenario for this confident Commodores team. And last I checked, this is Kalen DeBoer and a double-digit spread at Alabama. Give me the 10 and a hook because I think Vanderbilt's ready for the fight.
Oh, boy. We'll see how this one unfolds. So I think the best thing, by the way, did anybody know what happened last year in this game? Do we know this was one of the biggest upsets last season?
Yeah.
Do you think that Kalen DeBoer has reminded his squad of what unfolded in Nashville last year and what Diego Pavia did to them? And oh, by the way, what Diego Pavia has been saying all offseason, that we can do it again? There is no chance that he pulls it off again. The Alabama players, the leadership, the Ty Simpsons that you talked about, Chip, there is no way they can let this happen at home. So I think they win, and they win big. They establish themselves as the best team in the SEC. And oh, by the way, Chip, the pizza boxes are out because it's a 2-for-1 special, which we got to help our guy James out so he tracks those as well because he missed one earlier in the season. Give me the over as well because I do think Alabama's offense will put up a ton of points. You mentioned backdoor cover Utah State last week. This Vanderbilt offense is capable of putting up points, so I think they do too. I like the over as well.
2-for-1 could be big because Chip and Danny are only separated by like 4 or 5 games, so it's going to get close. We'll wait and see how it all plays out. We got to hit a break here on HQ Spotlight. Georgia looking to rebound off their loss to Bama by nearly 3 touchdown favorites against Kentucky this weekend between the hedges. Welcome back to the show. So we tackled the ranked matchups. Now we're going to go in chronological order here. We got a Friday 10:30 from Provo, Utah. We got BYU laying nearly 3 touchdowns, 19.5 against West Virginia with a total of 47.5. BYU 0-5 against the number in their last 5 conference games. Danny, I'm going to give you first word here in terms of laying it with BYU. Give us the handicap.
So I saw an article this week on CBSSports.com grading the first coach hires, and I believe Rich Rod had a B- on the grade. So I was like, oh, let me go see how he's been doing this year. And boy, they must be grading on a curve for a win in a rivalry game, which was huge in the game against Pitt. But has anybody watched what they've done outside of that game? They lost to Ohio, they beat Pitt, and then they get blown out by 2 Big 12 opponents. This one traveling to Provo and a team that's kind of hot right now, and they're fueling off a true freshman quarterback rocking that number 47 in Bear Bachmeier. Tough to play at altitude, tough to play when you're already getting smoked against your own Big 12. I think BYU rolls in this one. Easy cover for me. They win by 3 touchdowns or more.
Yeah, let me recklessly say for all the West Virginia fans out there, worth it. You know, you pour it out for the backyard brawl. You'll lose every other game. You already knew it was going to be a tough year 1, more of a year 0 scenario. But to your point, Danny, this roster has fallen apart. The offense has been sort of a mash unit. You don't know what you're going to get in terms of which quarterback's going to play and even how effective they are going to be. But I'm looking at this game, and I am a little bit scarred from what I saw by the way that BYU handled business again on the road against Colorado. It was a very, very conservative approach. I mean, we're talking punting from plus territory, playing field position. This is not a BYU offense that seems to be of the mindset to take a lot of risks. They're going to lean on their physicality. They're going to lean on their LJ Martin-led run game. And so in this matchup, especially late on a Friday night, give me the under. I wouldn't mind a little West Virginia team total under as well, but I didn't like that number. So overall, it is BYU's conservative approach. They seem to be fine winning by any margin and doing it in a physical manner. So under the total will be my play.
Third straight game for West Virginia as double-digit underdogs, and that continues in this one. Again, lay it, says Danny, and then the under for Chip. Let's get to another big spread here. Kentucky catching 20.5 between the hedges at Sanford Stadium against Georgia with a total of 48.5. This is a Saturday noon game. There's some great numbers for Kirby Smart off of losses. 8-0 with nearly 3 touchdown point differential. Also 13-3 after a loss under Kirby Smart. Obviously, the Bama game stings. Do you think they're going to be able to put up that big number against Kentucky in this game? Danny?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge number. I think this game's going to be gross. I really do. I think it'll be ugly, and that's in large part because of Kentucky. I went through and ranked all the SEC quarterbacks, and when I got to Kentucky, it was dead last, and it was whoever's playing at quarterback for Kentucky will be in that slot. I do think Georgia bounces back. A little bit curious how the early kick goes with a late night, emotional game that you lose there. This game to me reeks of like 27-3, something like that, maybe 27-6, somewhere in there where it is a cover for Georgia. I'd love to see them sort of get that offense back on track, hit some big plays, get Connor Stockton's confidence back up, have the defense get some more stops. But I think this is just what the doctor ordered for Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, 27-3, 27-6. Tommy, I haven't taken a lot of math classes in my day, but I think all of those totals are well under 48 and a half,
right?
Yes, they are. I mean, I read the game the same way that you do, Danny. I just find about 2 to 3 scores worth of value when we're sitting here with 48 and a half. I just don't know that this is going to be the game where this Georgia team decides to just, now we're going to go out and put up 40 points. This is one where they're going to be fine winning, just playing their style of game. They're not going to treat Kentucky quite like Marshall and Austin Peay, but we're going to see probably a little bit less creativity than we did against Alabama. So I think that Georgia playing at home, early kick, like you said, it reeks of 27-3 or 27-6. It's just with those kind of games, I don't have to sweat the spread because I'm easily taking the under to the pay window.
So a correlated play from you guys in terms of the UK-UGA game. You guys are on opposite ends of this next game. We've got Iowa State and Cincinnati. Now, this actually flipped across the line. This one opened Iowa State a 1.5 favorites. Now they're catching 1.5 against Cincinnati with a total of 53 and a hook. Cincinnati could be ranked and could be undefeated if not for that game at Arrowhead against Nebraska. I'm going to break the tie because I picked Cincinnati in this game, and that also is a Chip Patterson play like Cincy in this game. So we'll get Danny's response after Chip's word.
All right, so Iowa State fans are very upset that we continue to not treat Iowa State like the 15th or the 14th best team in the country. And gentlemen, it's because they're just not the 14th best team in the country. Is Iowa State maybe the 34th best team in the country? Maybe even the 24th best team in the country? Sure, but they are not the 14th best team in the country. They have done a great job of being able to get off to a hot start. They've been able to overcome adversity. But, buddy, the adversity is piling up, and I don't think that Iowa State's going to make it through this one. Because not only is the starting kicker down, not only is the backup kicker down, we're on to a walk-on kicker, by the way, but we're down 1, 2, 3 defensive backs. And now we're going up against a quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, who is one of the best dual-threat weapons in the Big 12. He can get it done with his legs, and he can also push the ball down the field. We saw that Bearcats offense be able to go back and forth in a very exciting and thrilling game with Kansas. So, yeah, I'm in line with the movement here. I think Cincinnati senses the opportunity of a banged-up Iowa State team coming into their house. Scott Satterfield and his staff, who have always been under a little bit of pressure ever since they arrived, they have a chance to record a ranked win. I think this is a little bit of a Super Bowl for the Bearcats.
Chip, all those upset Iowa State fans, I'm with them because everybody wants style points. Everybody wants NFL draft picks on the team, and they want blowout wins when all Iowa State does is win football games. Sure, it might not be the prettiest, and they don't go out there, and they're not the #1 team in scoring in the country, but Matt Campbell gets it done. And I am shocked that you, Chip Patterson, have not jumped on this opportunity as an underdog, where Matt Campbell, that's the difference. He is one of the best coaches out there. When everybody forgets about just how good they are, they have earned that top 15 ranking, and I think it's probably not enough respect. I think they go in there with a chip on their shoulder. They limit Brendan Sorsby, who has been balling, by the way. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's been awesome. Does scare me a little bit, but they will get it done at the nip. They get it done. Iowa State wins the game outright. You know who was a Broward County, all-county kicker in high school? This guy. You know how hard? You can find anybody. You can find a walk-on to go out there and put an extra point through the uprights. Not that hard.
Iowa State kind of the Illinois of the Big 12, not getting enough respect for their ranking. And so it'll be interesting to see in this tight game which way it goes. Look, I took Iowa State against K-State way back early in week 0. I also took Kansas against Cincinnati last week and learned my lesson. So that's why I'm taking the Bearcats in this game, breaking the tie. All right, Wisconsin, Michigan. This is a big line, 16.5, 42.5 with the total. Another noon game from the big house here. So Wisconsin coming off a bye, but boy, things don't look good under Luke Fickell. So Chip, I'm going to come to you this time. Give me a sense of what you like in this game and what do you want to play?
Yeah, I mean, lay them or nothing here. This is a Michigan team that has to be playing with a little bit of confidence. Sharon Moore returns to the sideline. And I've got this nagging feeling that Bryce Underwood, during that off week, has had a chance to do a little bit of self-scouting, do a little bit of growth, and that we see him come back and unlock yet another level in terms of what he's able to do. Wisconsin's defense is not the kind of group that's going to be able to stand up, even against just running the football with Justice Haynes and the rest of these Wolverine rushers. So, Michigan's playing with a lot of confidence after coming in and out of Lincoln with the win. Wisconsin is just really struggling and banged up at all the wrong spots. I will probably not have any personal action on this game, but feet to the fire. Give me Michigan to be able to win this thing handily against a wounded Wisconsin side.
Yeah, Barry Alvarez isn't walking through that door, but he is on radio shows getting angry at the fans and from the Fire Fickell chants. And I actually believe that Barry Alvarez is right there. I do think he is right there. And it's kind of one of those ones where maybe you're glad to get out on the road. But whether it was in Madison or whether it's in Ann Arbor, I don't think it's going to matter. I lean with you, Chip, as well. Wisconsin's been battered and bruised at quarterback. They've had to play multiple quarterbacks all season long. Their offense hasn't been able to get much going. And while I agree with you, I think Bryce Underwood, his development is something to really keep an eye on because he looks more comfortable each week he goes out there. But still, they want to run the football. They want to establish the line of scrimmage. I think they do that successfully against Wisconsin. I think they win, but I don't think Wisconsin puts up many points against Michigan's defense. So I think it's a lower scoring game. So I like the under in this one, but I do like Michigan to win as well.
You brought up something. Maybe it's good to get off Camp Randall. 10.5 point favorites against Maryland. You can't be doing that. Not just covering, but losing outright. Big. Michigan also coming off a little bit extra rest. I'm sad to not see any more Biff Poggi interviews there. Sharon Moore back in the sidelines there, but it was a good little 2-game run. Illinois, speaking of the Fighting Illini, 9.5 point favorites at Purdue. This is still a Saturday noon game from West Lafayette here. So Purdue is a team that you guys both want to back, at least against the spread. And Danny, I'm going to give you first word here because it's a first half play. Chip's got a full game play.
Yeah, I work because I do think this is a little bit of a trendy underdog play. Last year, these guys played an absolute shootout. It was a thriller of a game, but I worry about the longevity. Barry Odom has this team playing a lot better, a lot harder than they did last year. I just wonder with a veteran group like Illinois, if Illinois is able to take over the game late and sort of push through. But I do think you get Purdue's best effort in the first half. Crowd will be into it. You can unveil things offensively you've had maybe up your sleeve. So I like Purdue in the first half catching 6.5. A little bit concerned over the overall, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a fourth quarter game.
Gentlemen, they're playing for a cannon. You know what kind of chaos you're going to get when you're playing for a cannon? Yeah, I think that we have to go back not that far, just last year, to see when this Purdue quarterback, Ryan Brown, came in and ran all over Illinois' defense. And do I think that Illinois might be susceptible to a little bit of a hangover, a letdown, coming off that emotional win against USC? 100% yes. That big old drum's going to be beaten, and I do think Illinois can escape with the win, but our own Tom Fornelli said there is zero confidence here. You hang that 9.5, I'm going to take all of those 9.5 points because this is going to be a very, very tough game in a very tough spot for Illinois to be able to win. I would argue that this victory might even be tougher than what they had to do earlier this season, getting in and out of Durham with the win against Duke. Big, big game for Illinois to be able to keep this train on the tracks, and you're playing for a cannon, so be sure to keep all your fingers and toes.
Sandwich game for Illinois. Emotional win against SC, on the road against Purdue, Ohio State next week for the Fighting Illini again. Break time here on HQ Spotlight. Still a lot to get to, including a game that we all thought was going to be the top of our show. Texas at Florida, beginning of the season, didn't play out that way, but Longhorns just under a touchdown favorites in Gainesville. Welcome back to the show. You hear that music, can only mean one thing. Big Ten on CBS, number 7 Penn State at UCLA. Nittany Lions coming off that double overtime loss against Oregon. They won 34 straight games against unranked opponents, and if you're a Bruin fan, you're the only FBS team that has not led in a game this season. Deshaun Foster fired, Tim Skipper the interim, still the same result for UCLA. Catching 25.5 against the 7th-ranked team in the country at the Rose Bowl. There's going to be a lot of screenshots of, like, this is the attendance before the game.
Maybe Penn State fans will show up.
I was going to say, they'll show up, and if they're going to be majority of that in Los Angeles, that'll certainly be there at Pasadena. Danny, give me the sense of Drew Aller, this offense. A loss to the Ducks doesn't cripple their season, but it certainly hurt. A chance to get back as big favorites, as they've struggled as big favorites so far this season against some bad competition.
Yeah, and I would love to see them break out offensively, because even before that Oregon game, the question we kept asking was, are they holding things back? Are they waiting to unveil, all these secrets and, explosive plays? And they didn't show them in the first 3 quarters of that game. Thankfully for them, they did find them late in the game in order to come back and get to overtime. So that's what I'm looking for Penn State to do. But I don't trust them to do it, because we didn't see it in the first 3 games of the season. I do think that this Penn State defense will show up. UCLA did fire their offensive coordinator as well, Tino Cincinnati. They elevate Jerry Neuheisel from within. Ultimately, the personnel is just not that good out in Los Angeles. So I think it's a lower scoring game, because I don't trust Penn State's offense just yet. I think Penn State wins comfortably, but I think it's a lower scoring affair. So I'll go under the total. I don't know if UCLA scores a touchdown at all.
I agree 100%. I don't think they score 7. I think that they're not going to score 14. I think UCLA team total under 11.5 is the money maker right here. I think that Penn State defense is going to have the absolute clamps on the Bruins offense. And while Jerry Neuheisel, I'm sure, is very excited for the opportunity to be the big voice on the headset, Tim Skipper coming from the defensive side of the ball, he is going to be looking at a lot of losing propositions going up against this Penn State defense, which really did well enough to give Penn State a chance to win that football game, holding that Oregon offense to just 17 points in regulation. So, yeah, I don't know what we're going to get with Penn State's offense traveling across the country. Do they make a statement? Do they just bowl over the defense anyway? What I feel the most confident in is that UCLA is not going to score 13 points or more. UCLA team total under 11.5.
The Nico Imaliava experience in Westwood continues to struggle. Not only are the losses certainly there, but he's averaging 21 points less than he did in Knoxville, 35 versus 14 out west. If we get to the Swamp, we've got Texas and Florida, which actually, if you look at it, is more like an NFL line. Texas laying 6.5 with a total of 41.5 here. So,
boy, we ain't going to see much NFL offense on display.
I was going to say,
sure.
Into the season, though, we thought this was a circle your calendar, a big-time conference decider here. Danny, once again, though, a first-half play for you.
Yeah.
Taking the Gators in the points.
Yeah, I'm going with the home dog here. The way I look at it, there's 4 ways to win. It's 3-0, it's 3-3, it's 6-3, and it's 6-6, a field goal affair. In all seriousness, I do like Florida here to put up their best fight. They're coming off a bye week. Billy Napier says he sees a look in DJ Lagway's eye. This feels like the last ditch effort for them to sort of salvage a season. Last year it took till the last month. Can they start it earlier? I don't trust them to go out there and win the game. I have been 0 for backing the Gators this season on the total games. So I'll just attack the half here and say, you know what? The crowd's going to be electric. They're going to be highly, motivated. They're going to have a ruckus atmosphere. When Arch Manning, we still haven't seen him on the road or really at home either. We had 1 game of Arch Manning playing good football. I think he could struggle somewhat here to operate. I think they could struggle against this Florida defense, which has been pretty good while they're in the game. I do worry in the second half. The fans start to boo. They start to get a little bit upset. Is there a quit factor if their offense just can't do anything? But I do like the Florida Gators to keep it close in the first half.
Both of these teams rank outside the top 100 in third down conversions. Both of these teams rank outside the top 100 in over margin per game. Both of these teams, as Danny hinted at with his scores right there, have really struggled to play consistently. And I'm not going to take Arch Manning's 4 touchdowns in 5 minutes against San Jose State, no offense, Tommy, as a reason to think that they are all of a sudden going to find another gear, especially playing at the Swamp. So I'm looking at this one, and I know that this is a number that is dropping like it's hot, but I am still going under the 41.5 because I do not see a world where this is any kind of shootout. Maybe the Longhorns offense is able to get in rhythm with Arch Manning, but I definitely don't see it in the type of game where Florida gets it going against a Texas defense that I had so much confidence in that we were parlaying Sam Houston first half and full game team total unders just a few weeks ago. So full game under 41.5.
Yeah, he had those 5 total touchdowns against my Spartans. Sam Houston State, where he's staring down the defender in a 55-0 game. They do have a little bit of extra rest coming into this game this week. By the way, both teams are under teams, a combined 7-1 to the under, both the Longhorns and Gators this year. Number 21, Notre Dame hosting Boise State, a 20.5-point spread and a total 63.5. And Notre Dame nearly got there by themselves against Arkansas. Basically told Sam Pittman, you're good to go after the performance that they had over the weekend in Fayetteville. So you guys are both laying the points. Notre Dame needs to win. They need to win with margin, Chip Patterson, to try to keep their CFP hopes alive with the committee.
Yeah, we need a PSA for bullying for Marcus Freeman. This man is running fake punts up 30 against a coach who's going to get fired. I mean, Notre Dame is ruthless. Notre Dame is relentless. Notre Dame is going to do this to each and every opponent that they have left on their schedule because they can afford not to. If Notre Dame's going to make it to the college football playoff, they need to win out and they need to win with style points. I'm going to look at all these matchups and whether it's a Notre Dame team total over or whether it is just a Notre Dame lay the points like I'm going to do in this scenario, I'm going to take it until I get burned because I think that the Fighting Irish are just in the same mode that they were last year when they were just putting up 40 burgers and 50 burgers and holding teams under 20 each and every week. I think that is definitely the case against a Boise State team that looked outmatched even against USF. I love Notre Dame minus the points, especially at this number.
But Chip, it's Boise State's Super Bowl. Their whole season is on the line to get to the college football playoff, but they are running up against a juggernaut for all the reasons you mentioned. By the way, C.J. Carr is playing as good as anybody right now in just his first year as a starter. Jeremiah Love is starting to get things going. So is Jadarian Price. Their offensive line is starting to piece things together, and so is the defense. For all the reasons you said, the style points, they need them. They're playing bully ball. They need it. They're going to get it. I think they win big at home.
There's a look at Notre Dame's last 7 games against unranked teams.
The problem is there's way too many games against unranked opponents. That's the whole issue.
They've got to schedule a little bit better. And to Chip's point, by the way, Notre Dame hit their team total against Arkansas by halftime. They were running it up and getting those numbers and, of course, the cover. Number 24, Virginia catching just under a touchdown against Louisville, a total of 62.5 here in Louisville, Kentucky. So the Chandler Morris experience after the Knowles here, Danny, the total obviously hit in that game here. Are you expecting more points in this one? 62.5 is a lot.
I am. I'm expecting Virginia to go out there and put up points. Chandler Morris has been great. And if you go back even to the game against NC State, which they lost, they were actually driving in the red zone potentially for the go-ahead score. He throws an interception. But Chandler Morris, 5 total touchdowns last week. He can hurt you with his legs. And Louisville quietly is kind of, they're one of the undefeated teams that nobody's talking about. Granted, hasn't been the prettiest, and Miller Moss consistently gets better. So I think they'll have success against Virginia's defense. I think it's a little bit more of a kind of a wild type feel game that comes down to a field goal late, but I think it's played in the 30s. So I think this one goes over.
I like Virginia. I will grab these points. I think Virginia is going to win this game outright. I know that going into the artist formerly known as Papa John Stadium is very tough to be able to do that with a passionate Louisville home crowd, but this Louisville team is a little bit banged up. There's some question marks. Their star running back, Isaac Brown, questionable before last week, did end up playing, but didn't really dominate in that game. If there's anything further bang up or setback for him, that would be very, very damaging. But sometimes you got to dig in under the hood because in Louisville's 7-point win against Pitt, they were +4 in the turnover margin. And if you believe in the turnover luck calculations, got about 11 or 12 points of turnover luck because of how Eli Holstein and this Pitt offense could not hold on to the football. And so it was not the best game for Louisville. I'm not going to say they were lucky to win, but maybe it was a little deceiving, the fact that they still have a 0 in the loss column. They trailed early. They got out of it late. I'm just going to say that the idea that Virginia is going to have a hangover or a letdown is valid, but I'm going to go with the team that I think has been playing closer to their peak, and that's Virginia. I'll take Virginia plus the 6.5 and probably sprinkle the money line.
Louisville was down 17-0 in the first quarter to Pitt, came back to win in a high-scoring game, and they now have to pay those and buy those Papa John's pizzas at L&N Federal Credit Union out there in Louisville, Kentucky, is where they play their home games now. Home game in Norman, Oklahoma, Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium here, 53.5 of the total. Kent State, the spread at 45.5. So we have a spread this big, a total this big. Danny, I'm going to give you first word. First half, you think they're going to come out and really lay the foundation for a big game?
I think so, too. Michael Hawkins steps in for John Mateer as he's out with that, thumb surgery. The defense is so good. I don't think Kent State scores at all in the first half. And I could see a 28-0, 35-0. Kent State is just really struggling. The only reason I didn't take them in the whole game is because of the depth issues at quarterback. Like, are they going to be willing to still work it around, keep Hawkins out there, expose him, with big plays, or are they just going to kind of run the football, shut it down until Red River comes up next? That's sort of my hunch, but I do think they start explosive around him. I think the whole team elevates, and Kent State's just not that good, so I think they come out to a fast start at home.
I really wanted to look at Kent State team total under, but it was at 6.5. Michael Hawkins might throw a pick six in this game. I am not ruling out the idea that it doesn't take long for Brent Venables, for Ben Arbuckle, for this Oklahoma coaching staff to say, like, all right, boys, let's run this football. Let's take our time and let's get out of here. But I don't think Kent State is going to score a lot on their own. That's going to ultimately have me going to the under. Again, with health in mind, with depth in mind, I just don't think Oklahoma is going to be in a position to do anything other than pack it in. So I like your first half play, but I'm going to ultimately say that a quick moving second half contributes to a full game under for the Sooners and the Golden Flashes.
You guys both make sense. Kent State hasn't won an FBS game in forever, but they did give Buffalo a little bit of a feisty test early this season, so potentially a backdoor cover, but you guys would be covered on both fronts. Time to hit a break here. Home stretch time when we come back. Number 1, Ohio State looking to start 2-0 in conference play for the 14th straight season, which would extend the longest such streak in Big Ten history. Let's wrap things up with a handful of games here on HQ Spotlight. Number 11, Texas Tech, coming off their win against Utah in that big noon kickoff game. 11.5-point favorites against Houston with a total at 50.5. Danny, I'll start with you because I actually think, look, Texas Tech's a good team. I think they're going to win, but I think Houston might actually be able to put up 20, dare I say, maybe even 30 points in this game.
Connor Wegman's kind of finally found a spot where he can thrive in. Now, I know Chip's giving me the side eye because he's saying, oh, boy, that Texas Tech defense, all those transfers, look what they did to Utah. Do we remember that Devin Dampierre was hurt in that game and he wasn't full strength, and that game was one that kind of got a little bit sideways? This one I think will be a little bit more competitive. I do think Texas Tech scores on Houston, but Houston quietly undefeated. And Willie Fritz, big year 2 for him. They've already taken a big step forward. I think this game's maybe a little bit closer, but I don't trust it over 4 quarters. I could see this one be a little bit more of a backdoor cover type situation. I think it goes over that total because I do think Texas Tech's going to score.
Okay, all right, couple things. Number 1, the reason they are quietly undefeated is because we all went to bed thinking they had lost to Oregon State. And I ain't going to trust a team that I thought was losing to Oregon State to be able to handle business against, yes, what I believe is the class of the Big 12 in Texas Tech. I think that Connor Wegman, when he doesn't have a lot of elite defenders on the other side, can really showcase why he was a blue chip prospect. But here's the problem. When you got David Bailey over here, when you got Romello Height over here, you are dealing with something a little bit closer to that SEC speed. And last time we saw Connor Wegman against SEC speed, it didn't go so well for him. I also think this Houston team in general is a little bit banged up in some concerning places. I think Texas Tech comes out here and makes a statement. I like them minus 11.5. I like them minus 13.5. I might dance with some alt lines with the Red Raiders, which I think come out with a big win on the road, but in their home state.
Ooh. Houston's team total, I think you can find 19.5s out there. So I actually think, again, I think the Cougs can maybe put up some points. They're probably going to lose by what Chip said, 2 touchdowns or more, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, which leans into Danny's handicap there. Ohio State, off their win at Husky Stadium, comes back to the shoe in a night game for the fans. They don't have to get up early and play early. north of 3 touchdowns against Minnesota, so it's a 23.5-point spread. I'm going to start with you, Chip, because this defense has been the story of the Buckeyes this year. They have yet to give up double digits in any game so far this season.
Yeah, had a great time on CBS Sports Network breaking down what we called the anatomy of a reload. After losing 14 NFL draft picks, the Buckeyes are back at it again, and it doesn't really matter at all 3 levels. We've just got studs that have stepped up into starring roles. Caden Curry was the player I wanted to spotlight. 5 sacks on the season, already doubled his output from last year. He's tied for the lead in the Big Ten, and the Silver Bullets are the reason why you love this Ohio State team, because offensively, they're not blowing you out of the water, and they're not bowling you over with all this, offensive firepower. They've got Jeremiah Smith, who can always give you the gotta-have-it play, but it is the defense who gets it done. And while Drake Lindsey, I think, has been played pretty well, ultimately, I don't think in this scenario, in this environment, expecting the Gophers to score a lot of points is reasonable. So I'm going to go Minnesota team total under 10.5.
So I'm mildly nervous about my play because I'm on the under for the total of the game. I'm under 44.5. And the reason, you mentioned it, Ohio State's offense, they've been very workmanlike. They've kind of just been businesslike. They've gotten it done. Julian Saint has been phenomenal protecting the football. He leads the country in completion percentage, which is insane for a first-year starter to be doing that. But in large part because he's dinking and dunking underneath plays. Now, some of that is because defenses are saying, all right, Jeremiah Smith, you guys, and Carnell Tate, you guys are not going to beat us over the top. And he's doing exactly what they're asking him to do. I worry mildly about just some breakout game where the offense busts loose. But until I see that, I'm going to trust the defense to shut down Minnesota. I'm going to trust the offense to continue operating very efficiently, but not too explosively. A comfortable win for the Buckeyes and a lower scoring fare under that total.
Let me do a quick follow in Ohio State just because of what you guys talked about, how great this defense has been and how relatively pedestrian Saint the offense has been. Can they continue to play this way to a national championship run, or how much more do you need to see from this offensive unit for them to run it back?
I think it's similar. We talked to Ryan Day, and he said that last year they were kind of managing their workload throughout the season, making sure they were healthy when they got to that postseason run, and then all of a sudden that's when they caught absolute fire. Different kind of way. I feel like the offense, they're just kind of managing right now. There's no sense of urgency because they don't have to. And as they're kind of just taking baby steps forward with Julian saying, so that when they get to the games that matter, and there still will be a couple on their schedule where, yeah, you might have to get into a shootout, but I mean, the way the defense is playing, that might not happen until you get to a Big Ten championship game against Oregon potentially, or a playoff game against one of these explosive offenses that you might see. So I don't think there's any reason to panic with Ohio State. I think it's the perfect formula for them to get right when they have to and peak at the right time. But I think they're doing exactly, and I think they've got to be pleased with Julian saying what they've seen so far. The explosive plays will come down the road. I just think it's sort of the process that they're going through right now.
Tommy, Big Ten history is littered with champions who have bus driver quarterbacks and just enough skill players and absolutely elite defenses going out there to contend for championships. And to Danny's point, they can wait until they get to the games against other elite opponents to try to press the buttons to really activate what their high-end offensive firepower is. But for now, you might as well be able to lean on them, because you know what? Ohio State is doing what Penn State wishes it could do, what Penn State is trying it to do, which is just try to overwhelm you. It's just that right now, Ohio State in the last couple of years has done a better job of, when they need to come up with the offensive firepower, being able to have the difference makers at wide receiver specifically who can get it done.
They haven't needed Julian to be Super Saiyan just yet, but we might be able to see it at some point this season. Last on the ranked docket, we have Texas A&M hosting Mississippi State in a spread that's just north of 2 touchdowns. It's going to be 14.5 and a total in the mid-50s. The question becomes, and by the way, Hail State is a fantastic cover team this year. They're 5-0 against the number. The hook. Does it scare you, Danny Kanell? Doesn't look like it is for you in this game.
I ain't scared, Tommy. I ain't
scared. No hook.
No, you know why? Because Blake Shapen was running for his life last week for Mississippi State, and he almost got his head taken off with one of the vicious hits that he saw in that game. I think Texas A&M's defense is quietly maybe one of the best in the SEC, and I think they'll be able to pressure that offensive game. They'll be able to get after the quarterback like we haven't seen. And the Auburn game last week was very deceiving. They completely dominated that that game, and everywhere except the scoreboard. And then they also dominated the penalties because that was a slop fest for the Aggies. I think they clean up things with the penalties. I think they get back on track. They run Le'Veon Moss a significant amount and Marcel Reed to kind of keep the ball away from the firepower that they do have with that Jeff Lebby offense. I think this is a big day for Texas A&M. They're quietly becoming a team to watch out for, not only to make the playoffs, but actually to win the SEC.
Yeah, Mike Elko wants us to give more praise to the defense. I know Mike's a big fan of HQ Spotlight. So there you go, Mike. Danny's got it for you. Now here we go with a little bit of a cold shower, okay? Because I ain't quitting. I think this Texas A&M defense can be had. It's just not going to be Jackson Arnold or this Auburn offense, which looks downright broken, that's going to be able to do it. I do think that Blake Shapen and this Mississippi State offense can score some points. However, I don't think Mississippi State's defense is going to get any stops. There's going to be an emotional letdown that we see from Mississippi State. They had Tennessee on the ropes. They took Tennessee to overtime, and they ended up losing. Now you've got to go to Kyle Field. I just think this is going to be a spot where Texas A&M is going to be able to go and get us 40. I say it again. Texas A&M will be able to go get us 40, and that defense might be improved, and that defense might be under the radar, but I don't think they can stop Mississippi State over the course of 4 quarters from going to get 17, 20 points or so. So I like Texas A&M minus the points, but I really, really like the over.
And with that, we say a wrap to Week 6 of the College Football AP Top 25 slate. Our thanks to Chip Patterson and Danny Kanell. Guys, have a great trip to Tallahassee. Catch the Cover 3 on Friday with Bud Elliott and Tom Fornelli. Make sure you follow their socials for the latest information on where and when. And then catch these guys also in the College Football pregame show Saturday on CBS Sports HQ.